Hey everybody, this is Ryan from historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. In this video, I want to share with you the story of this gentleman right here, Mickey Vernon. And I knew Mickey a little bit when I was a kid. I did some portraits for him, and he was always gracious enough to send back a couple of autographs. And I do have an autograph here that I want to share with you guys today too. But I want to kind of go through this particular card and a few other things too. So I actually just picked this up last week, in fact, and the reason why I ended up picking this up is first off, again, I knew Mickey Vernon a little bit, and he was always really great to do business with and a very nice guy. But on top of that, I was at the Best Flipping Card Show over the weekend. I was doing some business with Matt from Providence, who again is a very good dealer, and I always enjoy what Matt and Jake from Wax Pack Wisdom have to say on the hit list. Shout out to you guys, and I always see Jake and Matt when I go to the Best Flipping Card Show, and I have to say that first that show was absolutely packed. And for a guy like me who can't really walk around like I used to, I got actually pretty nervous. In fact, there's a few things I really enjoy card shows, but there's a few things that I don't like about them. And one of them is that you have a lot of people who aren't actually paying attention. You have a lot of kids running around, and you have a lot of I guess teenagers and young people who have these giant cases and backpacks, and again, like they're not really paying attention to what they're doing or what is around them. And I always tell people, no matter where you are, you have to be observant of your surroundings. And so, on a few occasions, I've almost gotten knocked over, and I have both my legs, but one of them doesn't work correctly as it should. And so the show at the Best Flipping, the fire department had to show up, and they said that they were over capacity. Now, when I was listening to Jake this morning, he was over in Quincy at that show, and he said it was absolutely mobbed over there. And so last weekend, I was at three shows. I did two back to back, and the other show I went to was one that I'd never gone to before over in Medford, and it was the Great American Beer Hall, and that place was absolutely mobbed itself. It was packed. You couldn't really go down the aisles, and I just actually I was there just to see another dealer friend of mine, and just kind of talk to him and see what he had. But for the most part, there was a lot of people again who weren't really paying too much attention, and they were not observant as well. And again, this makes me kind of nervous. But you have a nice dichotomy of both sports and Pokemon at these shows, and I was going through Matt's bargain boxes, and I always like to see what he has in his collection there and what's for sale. And Matt has some really great stuff, and so I was going through a box that said 1952 tops, and I saw this particular card, but I lost it. I don't know where it went in the box. I mean, I knew it was there, but I just couldn't find it because there were so many 52s that I kind of gave up. And plus, there's so much there that he has. So I was like, oh, what's that? Hey, what's that? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And so there's just so much that I kind of forgot about this card in a way. But then after, like when I was going home, I was like, I wish I stayed around so I could find that Mickey Vernon card because I, quite frankly, I hadn't seen too many of those cards. And I did pick something up from Matt, and I want to show you that. So I picked up this, and it's I think now my fourth Lefty Grove card, and I almost had one of these once before, but instead I went with the Jimmy Fox in the set, and for some reason I just I think it was like one or the other kind of deal. So I think I picked up the Jimmy Fox for like $60 if I remember correctly. And again, like I'm somebody who is notorious with their notes. Like I write down everything of my purchases, when I bought it, where I bought it, how much, condition. So I'm very meticulous that way. So I didn't actually have a chance to grab this card afterwards, and he had it, and I was like, this sounds pretty good. And so I picked up the number one card in the 1934 Diamond Stars set. Matt, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And again, I really enjoy Jake and Matt when they get together on their podcast there, the Hit List. And then, so there's another couple of cards here I kind of want to go through as well with you guys before I get to Mickey Vernon and his story, if you don't mind. Another card I got from Matt was the 63 Flair Willie Mays. It makes now, I think, the 10th or 11th Willie Mays card that I have. I don't have a complete run. I wasn't actually planning on doing a run of Willie Mays. It just so happens that he was an amazing ball player, and I had always dreamed about grabbing at least one Willie Mays card several decades ago, and so now I'm down to a few more. I think I don't want to do a complete run, but I would love to get my cardboard mitts on a 53 tops at the National if I can. See what happens. I know it's kind of an expensive card, but uh, I also saw his rookie card at the Best Flipping Card Show as well, which is really cool to see. I do like that card actually. So I also got back from PSA my 1955 Bowman Mickey Mantle. I actually purchased this and a 1955 Bowman Hank Aaron from a gentleman that is actually, now I'm the second owner of these two particular cards. The original owner is 84 years old, and he was in some need of some money for medical bills. So I was actually very happy that I could help him out with that. And now I have I think it's now my sixth or seventh Mickey Mantle card, and I think equally about the same with Hank Aaron. I forget exactly how many Hank Aaron cards I have, but um, this is a mantle that you really don't see often. So the funny thing about that is that I put these into PSA on February, I want to say February 16th, and I just got them back over the weekend. And you must be like, well, okay, great. Well, here's the funny thing, is that back in November at the Shriner show, I put in the cards that I bought there, which is 13 cards. I put them all in for PSA grading, and I have yet to get those back. So I was like, why would that be? Like, I don't get it. Like, I put those cards in before I got these cards back within what, February, March, February, March, right? Yeah, basically like about a month, a little over a month. I don't know. So I just don't get it. Maybe it's the price. I have no idea. You know, me and grading and PSA don't really see eye to eye, I guess. And the other thing too is like I really needed to have these graded. But again, like I'm very happy I got them. I'm very happy that I was able to help that gentleman out. And it's funny because he had collected cards from 1952 to 1956, and then he quit. But he kept the cards all these years, and he saved everything that he bought, and it wasn't a whole lot of cards either. He just bought card packs intermittently, so maybe like 4 or 5 packs of 52, maybe 5 or 6 packs of like 55 tops, and so like he wasn't like a hardcore collector. Maybe he was collecting with a friend of his or something. I have no idea, but then all of a sudden in '56 he just quit, but he kept the cards, which is interesting. And what he had was amazing. So I'm really glad that I was the second owner of these cards. Anyway, getting back to Mickey Vernon here. I guess Jake from Wax Pack Wisdom did show up after I took off because I didn't want to be around a large crowd. And I see on his channel he bought that card that I was looking for in that box. So Jake, I'm very happy that you actually was able to grab that card. It just so happens that you grabbed it and I wasn't able to find it. And anyway, that's how these things go sometimes. But I I saw it on Jake's channel and I was like, wait a minute, I really want that card. I gotta go grab it. So I went on eBay and I found a presentable example, and that is it. So that's my story with that. Now I do have a couple of other Mickey Vernon cards, and I think one of my favorites actually is the 52 Bowman. I love the artwork on this particular card, and I'll show you the back of it. It looks like that with it looks like chewing gum stains or wax stains. Actually, I think that's wax. To tell you the truth. But I really love the artwork, and I'll show you another Mickey Vernon that I really enjoy too, and that's the 51 here. I don't like the 50. He's in the Cleveland Indians organization at that point in time, and every time I think of Mickey Vernon, I think of the Washington Senators. So this has been in my collection for a long time, as has the 1952 Bowman, and I also acquired the 52 Bowman autographed, and again, he was a great autographed signer. He was really great to his fans, and I thought today maybe it would be nice to talk more about Mickey Vernon, and he was up for Hall of Fame consideration, and I think after I might talk a little bit about that as well. Oh, one other thing before we get to Mickey Vernon here. I was on a SABR podcast with Paul Hensler, and he was talking about this book right here, and he gave a great presentation, absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and to tell you the truth, and he wrote this book, which I just bought. I just got it in today, in fact, and I can't wait to dive into it. But if you're really into baseball in the 1970s, specifically 1970, 71, and some of the stuff that I've already spoken about in a video here, you might be interested in this book. So just an FYI here, you can go on to the publisher's website, McFarland, and pick it up a lot cheaper, in fact, than eBay. eBay is actually quite expensive with this book. I saw it for like 54, 55 bucks. And if you go to McFarland, you can pick it up cheaper. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Paul Hensler because he gave a fantastic, a phenomenal uh, uh, view on what was going on, and a great presentation. So, Paul, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And if you're interested, go and check out this book. You know, a nice little plug there. So, anyway, let's get on to Mickey Vernon here, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. Here we go. This is from SABR, Mickey Vernon by Rich Westcott. In the 1940s and well into the 1950s, the premier first baseman in the American League was Mickey Vernon. On a daily basis, no other first sacketer matched Vernon's considerable ability as both hitter and fielder. With a bat in his hands, Vernon's classic left-handed stroke helped him win 2 batting titles, and he was regularly among the league's leaders in a variety of offensive categories. Vernon was such an accomplished hitter that Satchel Paige, the ageless wonder, once said, If I was pitching and it was in the ninth inning and we had a 2-run lead with the bases loaded and Mickey Vernon was up, I'd walk him and pitch to the next man. I pitched him more carefully than anyone else, pitcher Allie Reynolds claimed. He's not one of those powerful guys always looking down a pitcher's throat, but he's always ready, and he's always guarding the dish. You pitch him outside, and if he hits to left, you pitch him inside, and he can put it out of the park, said pitcher Tom Farrick. Mickey was a very intelligent hitter with a good stroke. When Mickey went up to the plate, he knew who was pitching and how to handle the guy. He didn't just go up swinging indiscriminately. He was the kind of guy who always put the ball in play. That's why he got so many hits. Mickey was equally adept with the glove, smooth, elegant, and graceful. He played first base as though he were performing an outdoor ballet. Few balls were hit his way that didn't come to rest in his nearly flawless mitt. He is the only man in baseball who could play first base in a tuxedo, appear perfectly comfortable, and never wrinkle his suit, claimed Jack Dunn, an executive with the Baltimore Orioles. To that, Farrick added, he was not only an excellent hitter and defensive player, he could steal bases. Mickey played the game the way it should be played. I never patterned myself after anybody, Vernon himself said. Playing first base just happened to come naturally. Mickey was also durable. During his long career, he never missed much playing time because of injuries. His most serious injury came when he suffered a cracked rib when hit by a Tommy Byrne pitch in the last week of one season. Vernon was one of the few major leaguers who played in 4 decades, appearing from 1939 to 1960. He regularly played in 140 or more games a season, averaging 147 games per year between 1941 and 1955, and 8 times performing in at least 150 games during an era of 154-game seasons. As outstanding a player as he was, perhaps Vernon's greatest attribute was as one of baseball's finest gentlemen. He was an upstanding citizen, a family man, kind, neither loud, profane, nor mired in his own ego. He was, his former New York sports writer and baseball executive Arthur Richmond's, one of the finest human beings I've met in all my years in baseball. There was no one like Mickey Vernon. He shouldn't have been in baseball. He should have been in the White House, added pitcher Mel Parnell, who played with Vernon on the Boston Red Sox. I feel honored to have had him as a friend and a teammate. He was a wonderful individual who always commanded great respect in the clubhouse. I look back at him as being one of the best teammates I ever had. Once Vernon was driving through the city of Chester, Pennsylvania, and he saw a group of boys playing baseball with a broken bat and beat up old baseballs. Mickey drove home, rounded up some bats and balls, and returned to the field where he gave the equipment to the surprised but grateful youths. When Philadelphia Phillies broadcaster Harry Kalas, then a 10-year-old boy, attended his first big league game at Chicago's Comiskey Park, he got a special tour that boyhood dreams are made on. Vernon saw him sitting in the stands before the game began. He reached over and picked me up. And took me into the dugout. The Hall of Fame broadcaster recalled. He gave me a ball and introduced me to some of the players. I was just in heaven. That started my love of the game of baseball. Once, during an interview, former pitcher and Vernon roommate Walt Masterson asked this writer if anyone had said anything bad about Mickey. Of course not, he was told. Why would anyone do something like that? Well, if anyone does, said Masterson, you'll send him to me, and I'll have a few choice words with him. Vernon played in all or parts of 20 big league seasons. While most of his career was spent with the Washington Senators, Mickey also played with the Cleveland Indians, Red Sox, Milwaukee Braves, and Pittsburgh Pirates. Vernon's best years were with Washington, where he appeared in 14 seasons. With the Senators, he won batting championships in 1946 with a .353 average and in 1953 with a .337 mark. He beat out Ted Williams for his first title and then edged Al Rosen by 1 point for the second one. Mickey is one of 22 American leaguers who have won 2 or more batting crowns. During a career that included 7 other times in which he hit .290 or above, Vernon slammed 2,495 hits while compiling a career batting average of .286. He drove in 1,311 runs and scored 1,196 while playing in 2,409 big league games. In 8,731 at-bats in the majors, Vernon hit 490 doubles, 120 triples, and 172 home runs. His career high for hits in one season was 207 in 1946. In that season, he led both major leagues with 51 doubles. Although first base is a position usually manned by home run sluggers, Vernon's 172 homers were 101 less than the composite career average of the 17 major league first basemen in the Hall of Fame. Vernon hit 15 or more homers in only 4 seasons. Nevertheless, Bob Veller called Vernon one of the toughest batters I ever faced. Mickey led the league in doubles 3 times. 1946, 1953, and 1954, was second in total bases 3 times, and second in hits and triples twice each. Mickey hit for the cycle on May 19, 1946, while facing the Chicago White Sox Eddie Lopat at Comiskey Park. He hit 2 grand slams on August 13, 1955, at Fenway Park off Red Sox Tom Hurd, and on April 25, 1958, at Cleveland off the Detroit Tigers' Jim Bunning. He hit 4 inside the park home runs and 2 pitch hit homers. He was a member of 7 All-Star teams: 1946, 48, 53, 54, 55, 1956, and 1958, and twice among the top 5 in most valuable player voting, 46 and 1953. Vernon had a career fielding percentage of .990. As of 2008, he held the Major League career record for first baseman for most double plays, 2,044, and American League career marks at his position for most games played, 2,227, most chances, 21,467, most assists, 1,444, and most double plays, 2,041. He also participated in 2 triple plays as a fielder, one on September 14, 1941 against Detroit, and one on May 22, 1953 against the New York Yankees. James Barton Vernon was born on April 22, 1918 at his parents' home in Marcus Hook, a tiny borough that sits along the Delaware River in the southwestern part of Pennsylvania. He was the son of Clarence, known as Pinker, and Catherine, and had one sister, Edith, born 7 years later. Pinker, a standout baseball player in local sandlot leagues, spent 43 years of his own working career as a stillman and later as a jitney driver for Sun Oil Company at its refinery in Marcus Hook. Catherine also worked briefly at Sun Oil before becoming a full-time housewife and mother. By the time the boy was 3 years old, he had been given the nickname of Mickey. There was a song called Mickey, he recalled. I used to play it over and over on the Victrola. My Aunt Helen started calling me Mickey, and the name stuck. Soon everybody was calling me that. Mickey attended Eddystone High School, where he was a basketball star. There was no baseball team at the school, so he played in youth leagues, including an American Legion team in nearby Chester. Although they had first met as opponents in a 12-year-old church basketball league, it was on that Legion team that Mickey became friendly with a Chester kid named Danny Murtaugh. The two became lifelong friends. In my first 2 years in Legion Ball, I played right field because a bigger kid played first, Vernon said. I finally played first base my last year of Legion Ball. There were only three positions a left-hander could play: the outfield, first, and pitcher, and I wanted to play every day, so first base appealed to me. As a teenager, Vernon hitchhiked to Philadelphia to see his favorite team, the Philadelphia Athletics, play at Shibe Park. In 1933, he was in the 10th grade. He hitchhiked to Washington with three friends to see the Senators in the World Series. I was crazy about baseball, Vernon said. I've been crazy about baseball as long as I can remember. Vernon was playing for Sun Oil in the Delaware Valley Industrial League when he accepted a baseball scholarship to Villanova University. At the time, Mickey also had a summer job at Sun Oil, walking a 3.5 mile pipeline looking for leaks. Mickey attended Villanova for 1 year and played on the freshman team. After the season, he had an uneventful tryout with the Philadelphia Phillies. Then, at the urging of Villanova baseball coach George Doc Jacobs, who spent his summers as manager of the Easton, Maryland Browns, a club in the Class D Eastern Shore League, Vernon worked out for the St. Louis Browns. The Browns signed him to his first contract in the spring of 1937. He headed to the minors. Vernon hit .287 with 10 home runs in 83 games at Easton, which finished in second place. After the season, however, the Browns did not pick up his option, so he was signed by Washington super scout Joe Cambria and became the property of the Senators. He spent spring training in 1938 with the Senators. The thing I remember about that spring, he said, was that the Senators had about 12 or 14 Cuban players in camp. Gil Torres, who later played for the Senators, got them together and they had a strike over meal money. It lasted a couple of days. I think they got maybe another 50 cents. Ultimately, Mickey was shipped to the Greenville, South Carolina Spinners of the Class B South Atlantic League, where he hit .328 while playing in 132 games. The following year, he began the season with the Springfield, Massachusetts Nationals of the Single A Eastern League. After hitting a league-leading .343 in 69 games, the 21-year-old Vernon was called up to Washington. He made his big league debut on July 8, 1939. He entered the first game of that day's doubleheader as a pitch runner in the ninth inning and scored a run. He started and went 1 for 5 in the second game with another run scored. He also helped turn the first of his 2041 double plays. Vernon went on to hit .257 with the rest of the season as the Senators' starting first baseman. At the start of the 1940 season, Vernon was sent down to the Jersey City Giants of what was then the Double A International League. Called Jimmy by local sports writers, the youngster hit .283 in 154 games. At the end of the season, he was summoned again to Washington, where he played in 5 games. He never played in the minor leagues again. The year 1941 was a big one in Vernon's life. On March 14th, he married Elizabeth Lib Firth. He became the Senators' regular first baseman and hit .299 in his first fall season. He followed that with .271 and .268 averages in the next 2 years. Shortly after the 1943 season ended, Vernon was inducted into the Navy. He spent the next 2 years as a sailor, serving some time in Honolulu and the South Pacific, where he was part of a traveling baseball team made up mostly of major leaguers that played before crowds of 10,000 to 12,000 troops. At one point, Mickey also ran softball and basketball leagues. One of the players especially attracted his attention. He was a 20-year-old sailor named Larry Doby. The two became close friends, and later Mickey helped Doby become the American League's first African American player. Vernon spent 1944 and 1945 in the service. After his discharge, he returned home and began preparing for the start of the 1946 season. It was a special time in America, and baseball was no exception. All the big league stars were back, and Americans flocked to baseball parks in record numbers. In the American League, much of the attention focused on sluggers Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, both back from the war after each had missed 3 full seasons. No one figured on Mickey Vernon, the quiet, slender first baseman of the Washington Senators, whose fondest memory from 1941 was hitchhiking with a friend to the World Series in Brooklyn from his home in Marcus Hook, and then standing all night in line at Ebbets Field to get center field bleacher tickets. When the 1946 season began, Vernon had yet to hit 300 in 3 years as a big league regular. Having just returned from 2 years in the war himself, he hadn't played at all in 1945, not even service ball. But Vernon took the lead in the batting race early in the season, withstood a late challenge by Williams, and held on to capture the crown with a .353 average, 11 points higher than the Boston Slugger, who had finished second. I don't know why I hit like that, Vernon recalled. The balls were just falling for me. I remember at the All-Star game that year, Bob Feller was talking to people about going on a barnstorming trip after the season. He asked me if I'd like to go, and I said sure. He told me if I was still leading the league at the end of the season, he'd give me a bonus. Feller's tour featured a team of major leaguers playing the best players from the Negro Leagues on a 40-game cross-country jaunt. The major league team included Vernon as well as Stan Musial, Sam Chapman, Phil Rizzuto, Ken Keltner, Johnny Sane, Spud Chandler, and Dutch Leonard. We played every night, Vernon said. Feller and Page pitched the first 3 innings of every game. We played 11 doubleheaders. We played Newark in the afternoon and Baltimore at night, or New Haven in the afternoon and Yankee Stadium at night. After his great 1946 season, Vernon's average dropped significantly. He hit only .265 in 1947 and .242 the following year. Following the 1948 season, he was traded to Cleveland along with pitcher Early Wynn for first baseman Eddie Robinson and pitchers Ed Kleiman and Joe Haynes. Although meeting Washington dignitaries was always one of the perks of playing with the normally downtrodden Senators, Vernon was still happy to leave Washington. I was glad to get out of there, he remembered. I knew I was going to a pretty good club, which had won the World Series in 1948, but after I was there a while, they got Luke Easter to play first, and I was traded back to the Senators. Again, I was glad to be traded, but not back to Washington. Vernon's average had bounced up to .291 in 1949, his first season with the Indians. On June 14, 1950, with Easter taking over as the Indians' first baseman, Mickey went back to Washington, where he finished the season with a .281 batting average. He followed with .293 and .251 averages the next 2 years. During the 1952 season, Lib gave birth to the couple's only child, Gay Ann. Much later, Gay became a prominent news director and host of an award-winning interview show on the radio station in Boston, a position she held for some 30 years as of Boston. I wonder if I actually know this lady. She sounds very familiar to me, actually. Anyway, let's continue. In 1953, Mickey was back in the chase for the American League batting crown. Again, he led most of the season, but had to go down to the last day to edge Al Rosen for the title by just 1 point with a 337 average. Vernon also drove in 115 runs and scored 101, making it the only season of his career that he broke the century mark in either category. Rosen got hot and really came on strong. Vernon remembered of his race with the Cleveland Indians third baseman. He had 3 hits that day, and I had 2. On his last at bat, he was called out on a close play at first base by Hank Sauer. If he'd have gotten a hit there, he would have won the Triple Crown. Rosen led the American League with 43 homers and 145 RBI. My guys didn't want me to come up in the last inning, added Vernon, who was due to bat fourth. One guy got thrown out deliberately at second, and another guy let himself get picked off so I wouldn't have to bat. Vernon followed up his second batting title with a 290 and 301 marks. In 1954, he hit a career high 20 homers. After the 1955 season, the Senators again traded Vernon, this time to the Red Sox as part of a 9-player swap. Boston also received pitchers Bob Porterfield and Johnny Schmitz, and outfielder Tom Umflett, while the Senators got pitchers Dick Brodowski, Tom Clevenger, and Al Curtis, and outfielders Carl Olson and Neil Chrisley. With the trade, Vernon's very special days in Washington came to an end. On numerous occasions, it was the Yankees. When he was managing the Yankees, Bucky Harris once made a special trip during spring training from St. Petersburg to Orlando to get me. Vernon recalled Clark Griffith, the Senators owner, said, "You're not going to get him another time." After I'd come back to Washington, I was walking out of the stadium, and Hank Greenberg, who was then the Indians' general manager, drove by. He said, "I just made a good offer on you," and Griffith turned it down. That's too bad. While he played in Washington, Vernon was only the third of 3 Senators' first basemen who had covered the bag in nearly unbroken string over 4 decades. Joe Judge manned the post from 1916 to 1930. Joe Kuehl was stationed at the initial stack from 1931 to 1937, and in the 1944-45 wartime years, Vernon made his debut late in 1939, and, except for 1940, when he was back in the minors, 1944-45 in the service, and 1949 and part of the 1950 season when he was with Cleveland. He occupied first for the Senators until 1955. For much of that time, Mickey was not only one of the most popular players ever to pull on a Senators uniform, he was also the favorite of United States presidents, particularly Dwight Eisenhower. One of my biggest thrills was on opening day one year, 1954, Vernon said. I hit a home run in the 10th inning to beat Allie Reynolds and the New York Yankees. Right after I crossed home plate, some big guy, a Secret Service man it turned out, came up and grabbed me by the that's awesome. I'm gonna do that again. Hold on. That's so cool. Came up behind and grabbed me by the arm and took me over to Eisenhower's box. Ike wanted to congratulate me on hitting the home run. Mickey hit .310 and .241 in 2 seasons with Boston. In his first season, Vernon often batted fourth behind Ted Williams. Pitchers would bear down on Ted and have a tendency to let up on a fellow like me, Mickey said. This was to my advantage. During the 1956 season, Vernon got struck in a 0-for-28 slump, but he also beat the Yankees 6-4 with a 2-run homer in the 7th inning and bashed 2 doubles and a single to a 2-0 win over Kansas City Athletics, and a 2-run 9th inning homer to beat the Athletics 3-2. He collected a home run, double, a single, and drove in 4 runs in a 9-3 win over the Tigers. The next day, he had 5 RBIs with a 3-run homer and a single in a 6-8 victory over the Tigers. Over a 15-day stretch, Mickey had 15 RBIs with 5 home runs, 5 doubles, and 5 singles. At the end of the season, Vernon had 15 home runs and 84 RBIs. In the early part of 1957, Vernon's bat stayed hot. In one game, he collected 4 RBIs, 3 hits, and scored 3 runs in an 11-8 win over Detroit. His 2-run homer in the eighth beat Baltimore 5-4, another 2-run homer down to Kansas City 3-2, and a pitch hit home run with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth beat the Yankees 3-2. Vernon's bat cooled off as the season progressed, and he wound up splitting first base duties with Norm Zochin and Dick Garnett. Mickey wound up playing in just 102 games. After the season, Vernon asked Boston general manager Joe Cronin if he thought Mickey should retire and take a coaching job he was offered. Cronin's advice: don't quit, you can still hit. That winter, however, Mickey was sold for $20,000 to the Indians. The Red Sox claimed that Vernon couldn't get the bat around anymore. That Joe Cronin, what a dink. I'm telling you, I got more stories about that guy than a comic book. Anyway, that's a different story altogether. Let me get back to this. In 1958, he hit .293 at Cleveland. The following spring, he was dealt to the Milwaukee Braves for pitcher Humberto Robinson, and Mickey's long career in the American League was over. In a reserve role in 1959 from Milwaukee, Mickey hit .220. At the end of the season, he was released. Shortly afterward, his friend Danny Murtaugh, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, asked Mickey to become one of his coaches. Mickey signed on as the team's first base coach. One of Vernon's other jobs was to work with the first baseman Dick Stewart and try to make him a better fielder, and good luck with that one. An extremely difficult assignment given the error-prone Dr. Strangelove's defensive shortcomings. Oh my God. Oh, that I gotta do a video on him too. Anyway, late in the season, as the Pirates surged to the National League pennant, Vernon was activated as a player, appearing in 9 games in September and collecting 1 hit and 8 trips to the plate. The final at-bat of his career, Mickey grounded out in the 11th inning of a 4-3 16-inning victory over the Cincinnati Reds. Later, in one of the most riveting World Series in history, the Pirates met the Yankees. The series went down to the final game with Bill Mazeroski's walk-off homer in the bottom of the ninth at Forbes Field, giving the Pirates a 10-9 victory and the World Series championship. As the first base coach, when Mazeroski hit the home run, I was the first person to shake his hand, Vernon remembered. When I saw the ball go out, I was just so charged up. That had to be one of my biggest thrills. But just playing baseball was a thrill, Vernon added. I love the game, and I'm very glad that I played when I did and with the kinds of players I played with and against. After 1 year with the Pirates, Vernon became the first manager of the expansion Washington Senators after the original Senators had become the Minnesota Twins, with a ragtag band made up of mostly of tired veterans and untried youngsters. The Senators posted a 61-100 record in 1961, tying for ninth place with the Kansas City Athletics. The Senators had last placed all themselves in 1962, finishing the season with a 60-101 record. Midway through the following season, with the team holding a 14-26 mark, Vernon was discharged from his duties as manager. The following season, Mickey returned to Pittsburgh, once again as a coach under Murtaugh. After spending the 1965 season as a batting coach with the St. Louis Cardinals, Vernon embarked on a stint as a minor league manager. Over a 6-year period, he piloted the Vancouver Mounties of the Pacific Coast League for 3 years. the Richmond Braves of the International League for 2, and the Manchester Yankees of the Eastern League for 1. His best seasons were second and third place finishes with Vancouver. After his stint in Manchester in 1971, Vernon returned to coaching. Over the next 14 years, he served as a minor league hitting instructor with the Kansas City Royals, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Yankees, and as the Major League batting coach with the Dodgers, Montreal Expos, and Yankees. In his final years in baseball, Vernon served as a scout with the Yankees, retiring in 1988 at the age of 70 after having spent 52 years in professional baseball. Vernon is a member of another select group. He was pictured on baseball cards in 4 different decades. Mickey first appeared on a card in 1947 when his likeness joined the long and distinguished parade of exhibit cards. With the exception of 1948, he was pictured either on Bowman or Topps cards every year from 1949 through 1963 and again in 1978. Mickey and Lib lived for 52 years in Wallingford, Pennsylvania. Later, they resided near Media, Pennsylvania. Throughout those years, Vernon was a prominent member of the local community. He attended numerous events every year. A little league was named after him, and a life-size statue of him was placed in Marcus Hook. He also participated in numerous events for former Major League players that were held around the country. Mickey Vernon was the best first baseman in Major League Baseball for most of the years of his long career, said Bob Feller when the statue was dedicated. You were a great hitter and a credit to baseball, Musial added. In his later years, Vernon was a recipient of numerous honors, including induction into the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Delaware County Halls of Fame. He has also been on the ballot for the Baseball Hall of Fame, the last time being as recently as 2008. Following a stroke, Vernon passed away on September 24, 2008 at age 90. This is from the Philadelphia Inquirer, December 26, 2008. A Hall of Fame strikeout. Denying Mickey Vernon, Veterans Committee voters again displayed a flair for the incomprehensible. The system cries out for an overhaul by Rich Westcott. Once again, Baseball Hall of Fame voters have served up a heavy dose of injustice. This month, in the latest example of the Hall's consistently incomprehensible voting, Marcus Hook native Mickey Vernon was denied admission. Vernon, who died in September, was one of 10 players on the ballot whose major league careers began before 1943. To make matters worse, for the fourth consecutive year, nobody on the list of players whose careers started after 1943 and ended by 1987 was invited to Cooperstown either. This was outrageous, disappointing, and embarrassing to a normally respectable organization. First baseman Vernon attracted a mere 5 of the votes cast by a 12-member panel. A nominee needed 9 votes to be elected by the group, which consisted of 7 living Hall of Famers and 5 so-called historians, including a former general manager and 4 members of the media. So, who was elected? Second baseman Joe Gordon, who received 10 votes. Certainly, Gordon was a fine player. He won the MVP award and played on 5 World Series winning teams. But he had a lifetime batting average of .268 compared with Vernon's .286. Gordon had 1,530 hits. Vernon had 2,495. Gordon had 336 fewer RBI than Vernon, played in 9 fewer seasons, and never won a batting crown or a fielding title. Vernon won 2 of the former and 4 of the latter. In fact, the only major offensive statistic in which Gordon bested Vernon was home runs, 253 to 172, compounding the questionable thinking of the 7 voters who ignored Vernon, Hall of Famer and one-time Gordon teammate Bob Feller, not one of the voters, made the ridiculous comment published in the Inquirer that Gordon was a major Hall of Famer. He was an acrobat around the bag. And what did he think Mickey Vernon was? At this point, it might be noted that Gordon played 7 seasons with the Yankees. If you don't think that weighed heavily in his favor, you probably live on another planet. By the way, although he did garner enough votes to get elected, pitcher Allie Reynolds finished second on the ballot with 8 votes. Reynolds won 182 games, compared with 198 won by native Philadelphian Bucky Walters, who collected only 4 votes. I remember this, by the way. That sucked. Reynolds, who hurled 2 no-hitters, was a 20-game winner once. Walters, an MVP, did that 3 times. Oh, and did I mention that Reynolds spent 8 of his 13 seasons with the Yankees? Clearly, the Hall of Fame's voting process needs a substantial overhaul. The original pre-1943 ballot was chosen by a group consisting solely of 12 media types, most or all of whom never saw the candidates play. That's a huge problem, by the way. They need to fix that. To add to the flaws of the present system, the next vote on the pre-1943 nominees will not be held for 5 years. Unfair? You have to believe it is. Equally outlandish was the selection of the post-1943 group. 64 Hall of Famers cast their votes, and no nominee came close to being elected. The candidates were 10 former players, including Ron Santo, Gil Hodges, Tony Oliva, and Dick Allen. I think all those guys have gotten in by now, except, no, it looks like all of them. You're telling me that nobody in that group qualifies for the Hall of Fame? Among its many shortcomings, this process selections an old boy network that too often has voters casting ballots for their buddies. That makes for an election based on favoritism instead of the merits of the candidates. Over the years, the Hall of Fame has repeatedly changed the process for electing old timers. There's no perfect solution, but if the process includes Mickey Vernon, rates Allie Reynolds above Bucky Walters, and doesn't elect a single player from the post 1943 group, something is definitely wrong. The outrageous results of this year's election cry out for major changes in the system, otherwise, there will be no justice in Mudville. I know this has been a long one. I think actually all those guys that were mentioned, with the exception of like Allie Reynolds, were inducted into the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame itself, they always revamp their process of getting these guys in, but I think that there's no easy solution here. It's at least it's better in my opinion than the Football Hall of Fame in Canton, which completely sucks, and I'm on record for saying that it sucks. And they definitely need to get their junk together. I'm trying to be G-rated here because I have another word for those jerks. That's a whole nother story altogether in Canton. But uh, I really wanted to share with you the story of Mickey Vernon here and show you this card in particular. I actually really like this card. I like the colors on it, and again, it's Mickey Vernon. And does he belong in the Hall of Fame? That's that's a good question, actually. I personally, I wouldn't mind if he's there. If he's not there, he's still a Hall of Famer in my book. But I'm not entirely sure. He might be right on the cusp. Obviously, obviously we have guys who are in the Hall of Fame who got there not because of their skills, but because of who they knew. And I'm specifically mentioning Frankie Frisch and Bill Terry on that one, and Fred Lieb. And there's about 7 guys who were elected to the Hall of Fame because they were friends of Frankie Frisch. And there's probably like another maybe 2 or 3 who got in there too. A lot of people say that Harold Baines got in the Hall of Fame because of his connection to Tony La Russa and another voter. And that could very well be the case. And I also would probably think too that Ray Schalk is also somebody who qualifies in that position as well, being a friend of a member of the media that got him in 1955. Because when you look at Ray Schalk's stats, they're just not there. But then again, like when you look at who gets in the Hall of Fame, you also have to look at the time and the era in which they get in the Hall of Fame as well, not just when they played, because you don't know who they're connected to, right? So uh, that kind of has to play into it, I would think as well. But anyway, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on Mickey Vernon here. I know that was a long one, but I wanted to cover Mickey for a long time, and I'd love to get your thoughts and takes on Mickey Vernon. And if you have any favorite cards of Mickey Vernon as well, I'd love to hear what you guys have in your collection. And so I'm going to leave it here, guys. But thank you very much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it, and I will talk to you in another one. Have a good one. Bye.